Hi folks, Francis Walsh here with thedigitalmerchant.com, and today we're going to be looking at the Employee Retention Credit, better known as the ERC. So the ERC essentially is a refundable tax credit. It was introduced as part of the federal government's COVID-19 response, so part of the CARES Act in 2020. It's a refundable tax credit, so if you qualify for it, you will get it back with your next or with your relevant tax return. And as you might imagine, this is a fairly straightforward explanation of something that is not straightforward. So if you want a more in-depth look at what's going on with it and more insight on whether you might qualify, there's a full breakdown of it on the IRS website. It might be worth checking this out if you're curious to learn more. So I suppose the key question that you'll all have is how much is available from the ERC? You can access up to $26,000 per employee across 2020 and 2021. There's a slight differential in the breakdown between the 2 years. 2021 is more lucrative than 2020. In 2021, you can access 70% of up to $10,000 per employee per quarter. So this works out at $21,000 maximum per employee. For 2020, it's only $5,000 max per employee that you're entitled to. So if you want to look at an example here, if you're a business, say with 15 employees and you qualify for all 3 quarters in 2021, that's 21,000 maximum potentially per employee. Multiply that by 15 and you come out with $315,000. This is potentially quite lucrative, so worth looking into. So who can qualify? Basically, any business affected by COVID-19, and that's obviously a broad church, can qualify. So the first way in which you might qualify for it is through a reduction in your revenue. So if your gross receipts during any of the relevant quarters or more than one of the relevant quarters was affected, you can qualify that way. But also less direct operational issues can qualify you as well. So let's say you're a law firm and lawyers couldn't go to court in person during COVID. They couldn't conduct business meetings or client meetings or staff meetings in person. That might qualify you. So issues like that. So it's worth looking into if you're in a position of that nature. Now, a slight wrinkle to consider in terms of your company size. If you're a company under 500 employees, you won't need to worry about this because all wages and benefits qualify. However, if you're a company with more than 500 employees, only wages for employees who were not working will count. If your employees continued working and you are paying them throughout this period, you cannot count these towards your benefits. And also, if you missed the 2020 claim deadline, unfortunately, those benefits are now lost to you forever. Only 2021 wages are still eligible for ERC benefits. And actually, as I'll cover in a bit more detail later on in this presentation, the deadline is coming up for that as well. So it's probably a good idea to start looking if you're interested in ERC. Now, challenges in filing for ERC, there are plenty of these. First off, complicated wage calculations. Even using the word wage here is kind of a little bit of a misnomer. There are more than wages and salaries essentially that can qualify you for the ERC. For instance, if you're paying health benefits for your employees during the concern period, that can qualify. Furloughed wages also may qualify as well. Now, the PPP, this is an issue that has come up repeatedly during my research for this video. It is possible to claim ERC having claimed for the Paycheck Protection Program as well, but you can't double dip. So you cannot claim ERC on wages that were covered by PPP loan forgiveness. Filing mistakes is another issue that arises quite a bit. You do claim for ERC through an alteration on your Form 941, which obviously you're going to be returning anyway. So it is a little bit simpler in that regard. You don't have to do a distinct claims process, but it is still complicated, particularly if you're not that familiar with claims processes. Errors can cause delays and rejections. So if you're not comfortable with it, it's worth taking your time. It's worth thinking carefully about what you're doing. And lastly, this is probably the big one, IRS audit risk. The IRS has openly stated that this scheme is one that's been targeted quite a bit by fraudsters. A lot of people have made mistakes in their claims as well, accidentally overclaimed their benefits, and they have openly stated they're cracking down on mistakes and fraud in this area. So they're conducting a lot of audits. If you are submitting a claim, it's probably worth your while doing it carefully and being prepared for scrutiny from the IRS. So with that in mind, is it worth using a third-party filing service? These third-party filing services have sprung up a lot in the time that the ERC has been available. And they can help you ensure compliance, handle your paperwork, and maximize your credit without overstepping legal boundaries. Now, that's important because, as we've seen, wages aren't always that straightforward to assess, or the eligible benefits aren't always that easy to assess. So a third-party provider can help you maximize what you're entitled to without overstepping and without making mistakes that are going to land you in hot water with the authorities. So there are a couple of providers that I looked at while researching this video. The one that I think provides the best service for the biggest number of companies is IRS Plus. So it provides a great service for small to medium enterprises. It comes in 25 to 30% cheaper than most of its competitors most of the time. It's got a strong track record of delivering results for clients. And it also offers a risk-free guarantee. So if there are any mistakes in your filing that end up costing money, the IRS Plus will cover this on your behalf. Omega Accounting Solutions, this runs along similar lines. There is a distinct USP here in that they offer bridge loans, so that if you need money quickly, they can potentially front you the money and you can have it in as little as 10 days. However, their pricing process isn't that clear, but it's likely they will probably end up costing you more than the IRS Plus. So unless you need money urgently, they're probably not the way I would recommend going. And then Bottom Line Concepts is the last one. This company has a strong track record when it comes to larger companies. They've got a lot of Fortune 500 names on their client list. So if you're coming from that kind of an organization, it might be worth looking at Bottom Line. Obviously, as you know, there are different processes in place when it comes to larger organizations. And so it might be worth going with a service provider who can account for this. But other than that, as I said, IRS Plus, I think, is my recommendation. So it's important to be aware that you're probably not going to get your ERC funding that quickly. The IRS has openly stated it has a huge backlog. There's over 1.2 million people waiting for their money, and many of them have been waiting over a year. So the moral of the story there is don't expect to have your money that soon. Don't be relying on it. It is probably going to take a while. Even if you do use a third-party service provider, it might take a while. And if you don't, it's going to take significantly longer. So ultimately, is this a good idea? Should you do it? You should certainly look into it. If you're going to submit a claim, though, I would recommend exercising due diligence. Don't overclaim your benefits, or there's a very good chance you'll get in hot water with the IRS, which obviously no business needs. If you're not confident about it, but you do think you might be able to benefit, I would recommend reaching out to a third-party provider for a consultation. They do generally offer free consultations, so there's no risk to you in doing this. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about ERC. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.